I'm really excited to be here. I think, watching the videos again today on a big screen just reminded me of like how special this moment is. I've had the pleasure of reviewing applications and seeing these films on my computer screen, but to be here in this moment and just to see how each director and choreographer is positioning the body and just understanding that these films have been shot since 2019 all the way until January 2022, and what that time span has offered and afforded all of us. So before we get started, I'd really like to introduce our filmmakers tonight. I'm here joined by Brittany Bass, Donna Crump, and Blake Daniels. And if you would like to introduce yourself, remind the audience which film is you're a part of, and then maybe we can get started. So who wants to go?
Okay, I'll go first. My name is Brittany Bass. I worked alongside Set 7, which is a film production company here in Houston, and also good friends of mine. And I choreographed and performed in White Sands.
My name is Donna Crump. I am an artistic director, dancer, choreographer. My film was Gend Her, the last film that you just saw. It was directed by me, and my collaborator, Kayla Collymore, stepped in to help as well. And a huge shout out to the CAM, the Contemporary Arts Museum of Houston, for allowing us to step into the space. They've been really great about helping artists facilitate rehearsals and creative space to continue to make work like this. So,
my name is Blake Daniels. My film was Bridge. Yeah, it was my first dance / first short film. I collaborated a lot with Jalen, who was the actor / choreographer. He did some choreography, but it was mostly improvised. So it was kind of a organic piece that had an idea behind it, but just kind of came together nicely.
Awesome, thank you. I'm wondering, and please feel free to crosstalk and share tidbits, and also if y'all have questions for each other, introduce them too. But I'm wondering if you can each briefly maybe talk a little bit about the concepts of your film, particularly like when you shot the work, and maybe what it's like watching back now that you're in this moment. Everyone wants to go first.
Like, should I go first again? I will. So this was filmed in November of this past year. And actually it was one of 3 films that I presented in a larger project that I did at the end of, or middle of December. And really it was just a reflection, because we had so much time to reflect during this pandemic. But it was a reflection of kind of how I viewed myself as a Black person in white spaces. And I didn't necessarily, when I went into doing the film, I didn't want to overtly represent that necessarily on stage or throughout the film, but it is something that I kept in mind. And so there's like little moments of like changing who I am through like the different Black clothing that I'm wearing. But in this very physically large white space that is White Sands, representing this white world that I live in. But that was kind of like my concept that I had in mind upon the creation of it.
So my piece, Gend Her, a lot of my work is normally based around feminine energy or the divine feminine energy. And just doing a lot of research, you can't have divine feminine energy unless you possess both masculine and feminine energies, hence the suits and the dresses. So what inspired this piece was a work by Frida Kahlo called The Two Fridas, very famous work of hers, and it shows, it's a self-portrait of her side by side of herself. And it kind of spoke to me a little bit about identity, and how we can sometimes put it in a box or put it in a cage as opposed to just allowing the freedom. So I just kind of wanted to play on that within the contemporary dance world. Again, we had a chance to use a lot of the contemporary art in the museum. Again, really just kind of piggybacking on what Brittany said, not really wanting to be literal in the sense of creating masculine or feminine energy, but just finding a way to tie the two in. And this is also, it's a work in progress. This is actually the first of 3 works that'll be finishing up in October, so stay tuned.
Yeah, so Bridge was kind of a self-reflection piece for me as well. I work a 9 to 5 in a corporate setting, so it's very dry and dull, which is why the first half is kind of, you can see that in the picture. It's very unsaturated, very dry, there's not a lot of color. So yeah, I kind of wanted to show that in the first half, and you're kind of following a guy who's like me, like in a 9 to 5 setting, and struggling. He choreographed and moved. I just said I wanted to look like you're struggling internally, being in this corporate setting. You know, that's not who you are. It's kind of a construct that's suppressing who you really are. So that's kind of the concept I wanted to show in the first half. And then he takes a leap of faith, and you know, he's in this beautiful place. It's open. He's able to move freely and be himself. So that's kind of the concept of the second half. You know, he took that leap of faith. But ultimately, that was just a dream. You know, a lot of people like myself, we have these dreams. We want to make films. We want to be creative, but the safe route is usually what we take. So that was kind of why it ended with him just going back to work after his lunch break or whatever he was doing.
I love that. I love the introspection that all of your video films and a lot of the films that were shown tonight offered. And I think one of the things that dance films have an opportunity, especially right now in this moment, is that there's a really amazing tool that kind of captures the audience's imagination. It challenges our perceptions of telling stories. You know, it's about the movement of the performer, but there's a relationship to the camera, and then there's a relationship to seeing the film in person and on a screen. I'm wondering if maybe we'll start with Daniel, since this is your first kind of dance film. Like, what is it like working with a choreographic, or like how do you center the dance and then begin to tell these stories that you have, that you've been imagining or reflecting on through this relationship between the camera, the body, and this third entity, the audience?
Yeah, I think with Jalen it was very easy because he's so talented. A lot of it, I told him the entire idea, like what I was wanting, start to finish. And while we were shooting it, I was telling him, you know, this is what's happening in this moment, and he just brought it to life. Like when he was playing with the flowers, and he kind of he improvised all of that. So yeah, I like to work with people like my wife. She's also a dancer. We're gonna do a film soon, right? People who have that ability to just create moments organically. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, I think it's fascinating to see this relationship and thinking about something that is, you know, that you're planning out in your head or in the moment, and the relationship with the choreography that takes a lot of time to rehearse and think through. Maybe Donna and Brittany, you can share some insight too.
I actually have danced all my life, and I'm just now starting to get this like need for like filmmaking. Like, that is my jam. This is like, I'm a director now. So it's actually as difficult as it is to wear so many hats when creating the work. It's so fulfilling to just, for me, to take a step out of the dance body, to get either behind the camera or say, hey, you do this there, where, you know, point the finger. I love doing that. But I think for me, choreographically, we're so used to seeing dance on the proscenium from the stage. So seeing the work and seeing all this fascinating movement in regular places like a kitchen or, you know, a parking lot or a museum or just something that is more practical versus like a stage. I always find that that kind of not necessarily breaks the fourth wall with the audience, but because we're watching a film, but I feel like it's a little bit more relatable because people don't live on stages. So it kind of gives you an open space to kind of dive into that world and kind of create, become the characters as well.
Dance film has not become my jam yet. There is a lot of trust that I have with the people that I'm working with. I gave them a very brief insight to kind of like where my mind was when I was going about what I was doing, because still it kind of makes me uncomfortable to say, I'm a black girl in a white space. Like, that makes me a little bit uncomfortable to say out loud. So I didn't really even want to unveil too much to them. And so there's a lot of freedom in what they were capturing and how they captured it. I know they were playing with drone footage, and I don't even know all like the correct camera, like the different cameras that they have. And I know at some point they were working with like a VHS recording, whatever. And but I do give a lot of trust to them, because I know that at the end of the day, that whatever is captured, like, we work really well with being like, okay, this fits, this doesn't. But I didn't give too much to them, and they also are, I'm sorry, I'm just saying them. Sonia and Carlos are the two people behind Set 7, and they work, I think that we've kind of built a good relationship in how we work together and trying to communicate with one another. Like, if there is a vision that they see in a moment, and this is, sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but this is only the third film that I've done in my long dance film lifetime. But I just started doing some as of the pandemic. With, again, this being the third one, and the first two I was not dancing in, so it's very different. Like, I'm still very much learning what it's like to create movement that looks good in front of camera, like trying to find those angles, remembering everything is not frontal, just like, I don't know, there's so much that you have to think of, and I do rely on them as much as they rely on me in the process of it, so.
I think both of y'all, Donna and Brittany, brought up something that's really interesting that I was wondering about in terms of, I mean, because of the pandemic, we are in this new, there is this new type of genre of film and dance. And there are a lot of organizations that, when we had to shutter, that went to all this alternative format to continue creating and offering and engaging the artists in the community. But I'm wondering, do y'all see any benefits of or drawbacks of producing dance work on film, and if, you know, where in terms of the genre, where it might go?
Where it might go, I have no idea. I never would have pictured myself working with film at all. Like, I'm enjoying it more, I'm learning a lot. I think that it probably, for better or for worse, it's like making me think, oh my God, I could try, you know, the possibilities are endless. You feel like, you know, a little kid in a candy store. I want to try a little bit of this and that, and I probably will not do all those things, but I do look forward to other people who will, and who will do it much better than I ever could. So I do think, like, I've heard my friends talking about like these really wild ideas that they see within digital dance performance happening. And I look forward to seeing how that flourishes, but I couldn't tell you where that's gonna go next.
I think it's the wave, like this technology. I mean, and the pandemic kind of showed us that. We couldn't go out to theaters, we were stuck in our homes, so what do for entertainment? Well, there's the television, so I mean, that's where I found like a lot of creativity within creating dance for film. Just because we didn't have the space to create anything or to show and share with the world. But I definitely think it's been around a while, but it's definitely on the come up as far as much as technology is. I mean, social media. You don't even need to go to the theater, really. I mean, you just pick up your phone or your device and you're there. I think in the future, some drawbacks as far as artists within technology and dance on film. I think copywriting. That's still a thing now, but I think that could have a few setbacks. But I also think it would challenge more artists to create more work to put out there for or to bridge the gap between artists and musicians or different collaborators.
Yeah, I'm not really my wife is in the dance world, so I technically am too, but I'm not a dancer or anything. But I have noticed like in the movie Joker, the most recent one, there's a scene where he's just dancing and there's music playing behind it. It's beautiful because it's telling a story. And that's why I wanted to start off doing a film that incorporates dance, because you don't need dialogue, you don't need a lot of other things that can be difficult. You don't need a whole entire script with telling a story or telling it through movement. So I think, blending the two, like in the Joker, the way they do, could be really cool.
Yeah. This will be my last question, and then we'll open it up to the audience. Danielle, I think you bring up something that I've been thinking about, especially sitting in here watching these films, is the positionality of the body, and like how a lot of these films are returning back to a lot of the choreographers and the dance movements are returning back to the body, and this awareness of kind of what the body means to be inhabiting different spaces, this interpersonal relationship of where it wants to go. I'm wondering if you could potentially think about, or maybe help us think of, how do you give space for that to happen in the film, or like the relationship between the choreographer and as y'all are working to relate to the body or gifting to the audience.
I think the camera can be more intimate than actually being in the performance space. There's so much you can do, so many stories you can tell, from one camera angle. So I just think within having the freedom to do that, I think it just, I'm losing my choo-choo train of thought, but bring me back to the question again. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I think what I'm trying to ask in terms of understanding, like, I guess in the midst of this moment of reflection, a lot of people have been returning back to the bodies, and what does that mean in these dance films to have the body so center to the story?
For me, I think it's about exploring the entire body. It's in like 360. There's a space for everything. I don't think that, just my opinion, I feel like you can tell a better story or more of a story just using 360 or just not on the 2D flat visual. But that's what I think as far as like being internal and with the camera. I think that it just depends for me, like, on the different angles you use and the positions of the body, the positions you choose to use your camera, and editing as well. That's a rabbit hole. Oh my gosh, that's a rabbit hole. But
I think for me, this last piece that I did, I had phrases that I kind of had prepared myself to go out there and work in, but like the conditions, that sand was so cold and tough. Being able to let go sometimes of the dancing itself and just see what looks good on the film, like just allowing to, we have this obviously medium that we're working with, but letting go of that kind of in a moment to see what else can be captured. Like, not necessarily in this film, but in one that I did, one of my favorite moments isn't really even of dancers doing the movement that I gave them, but I was like, oh my gosh, this looks so beautiful, like, of them just standing there, please get that moment. And it, like, for me, like, I don't know if anyone else really felt that way. I was like, oh my God, it's the most beautiful moment, and it really meant a lot for me in that piece. But just allowing myself to not be so stuck on perhaps the movement that I've created in mind, but just again, just allowing to let go of that and seeing what can be captured in that time, or like because of the lighting at this moment, or because, I don't know, a seagull flew by, or whatever it is. But
I think taking the time out to be human first really reads on film for me better than movement itself.
Yeah, I think when I was making it with Jalen, both times when we were driving downtown, I was like, that field, you're gonna end up there. Cause it's like, you know, that space is concrete and he's longing to go to this open, beautiful space that's more nature. So, you know, making sure that he's in the right place, like whether he's in the corner like by himself or in an open field or dancing in the middle of the street, like just using all the different spaces and the person, I think can really help tell the story as a whole.
Yeah, the little gestures, the little moments. Like, I think that's something, like even the magic of like the seagull, or like seeing the dust particles in the Spanish film, and like those are things that you can achieve somehow in the dance proscenium, but like to have it on film, it's great.
yeah, you can't even really know that that's gonna be like that until you're in the space that you're in. So
Or even like the glow of the sun, like you have the artificial versus the natural. It was really, I think aesthetically there's a lot of really beautiful cinematography, and I think that's something that blew me. And I think, I can't speak for all the other panelists, but I think in conversations that we talked a lot about the quality of the films that were presented for this Barnstorm film screening. Was really lovely to just kind of see like where people were positioning their their films at, or the stories that they were telling, and how it all came together. I'm gonna go ahead and open up to the audience. Do any of y'all have any questions?
So also, expanding on what you said, also seeing that quality on a big screen, truly impactful, makes it totally different. I mean, you play on like a small screen, and when I saw it on here, totally different experience. Second thing I'll say, all three of you guys, amazing. So just, you know, you can tell a story through film, but you guys had an idea, and you expressed it through dance. I fully understood it, and I've never, kind of from that point of view, I'm like, oh, okay, that's different, but truly impactful. I mean, you gave your actor or your dancer, instructions, and he expressed your idea. The black suit and the white and the dresses when you changed, I mean, that was you could tell that was like, it was a moment, but that was the idea that you were trying to express, and I got it. And you, White Sands, you're not giving yourself enough credit, because to express that one idea, which, I mean, in society, we deal with that all the time, but to express that idea that way, I'm glad you guys are up here, because I didn't quite get that point, but when you said it, I'm like, oh, genius, that was great. So hats off to all three of you guys. I thought you guys did an amazing job.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Two quick questions. One, for Brittany, did you say where you shot that?
that was in White Sands, New Mexico.
Okay, cool. And then for Donna, just curious, what caused you to choose that particular ending for the piece? Was it just like, this seems really fun to jump off of?
Okay, so yeah, that's a great question. So we had this great location in the museum with all of this art, and actually the brown platform that was actually built for the exhibit. So it was actually a part of the exhibit. We had no idea until we got there.
They let you dance on it. That's crazy.
They did. Oh, it's completely functional. All of the work and things that we jumped on, they're like ottomans and couches and things like that. Yes.
Perfect.
So when we got there and we saw this, I mean, I was like, this thing is in our way, move it. We need the space, we gotta dance. But just going deeper into, what the piece is about and, social constructs dealing with masculinity and femininity, it just felt right to take that leap and just jump off. And it read pretty well, so grateful for that. But yeah, that was a game time decision, and I'm grateful for the brown thing now.
So, Blake, you're downtown Houston. When did you film this? Because
Oh, yeah.
I'm
traffic.
thinking like the
I mean, there's a
It's
reason
like-
I saw a car coming, but I mean,
I think it was on a Sunday. It was amazing. There was no one there, and that was the vibe I wanted. I wanted to make sure like it was like you were in his headspace, almost.
Yeah.
Like he was tuning out everything. So yeah, it was like on a
it's very
Sunday.
effective. But I was like, when is Houston this big?
It was really cool. I went to the business district, so on the weekend there's no one there.
Okay.
I felt the same way. I'm sorry, Mark.
No,
I felt the same way when I was watching Chris's, and I was like, this had to be
like
Yeah.
Sunday,
like
5:30 a.m.
Yeah.
before the sun.
in 2020 because there are so many people down there now. I mean, I don't know when it was shot because I don't know, but I felt the same way about yours. I was like, there are way too many people around town. How did you capture?
Yeah, it was cool. That was what I wanted.
I was wondering if you had to get a permit to dance in the street and.
No, I wanted to go inside of a building and I tried and I got kicked out of a few locations. Like the first one with the waterfall, they're like, oh, you gotta leave. And then in the street I was like, sure, let's go. And yeah, it was really cool.
Funny enough, as long as you're not blocking traffic, you don't need a permit to perform in the city of Houston streets.
Good to know.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. As long as you're not blocking traffic or stopping, yeah.
Put out a hat and get tips.
Any other questions?
I have one. Any surprise moments in your films? Because obviously all three of them were very powerful, but any surprise moments where you didn't plan something and it happened and you were just like, this is the best?
I don't know about the best for me, but I fell off the brown thing during filming. And the first time we watched the playback, it's like you see me and then, oh, where did she go? So that wasn't planned, but I'm sure. I mean, there's always something that goes wrong. The battery in the camera. I mean, technical things or splinters in feet. Come on, Brittany, give me the best. What happened in the sand? Come on.
Worse. I'm more on the worst side. I kind of forgot that I was dancing in sand and that my entire eyes and every crevice was gonna be covered in sand, and I just forgot that physical aspect and how it was. Yes, there was sand in my ears, and my nose, and my eyes, and my belly button, and everywhere. So that was physically challenging to continue dancing when you can sometimes barely see, or you're getting a close up, there's sand in your teeth. So that was a surprise, only because I kind of forgot what I was signing myself up for. But I mean, I enjoyed it very much, but I just also the temperature. I went in November, I think. Maybe it was October, I don't really remember anymore, but it was so incredibly cold. The sand itself was hard, and trying to, this moment that I was doing my hands like this or whatever in a film was because I was trying to actually make the sand a little bit softer to dance on, because it was just concrete almost.
How long were y'all out there filming each of your films? Because I'm wondering, because you just made me think about the duration of producing a film. There's a lot of takes, a lot of work prep. How long did it take y'all to film your works?
It took me maybe 3 hours downtown and then an hour in the field, 4 hours.
tons of footage, but, we ended up doing a very, very small, I mean, there's so much footage. I don't know if you guys are the same way, but just like an enormous amount that I just probably wouldn't have enough space on any hard drive that I have. But for 3 minutes, it's like it blows my mind.
Okay, I think maybe one more time for one more question. Any last questions?
I was gonna answer Kara's question.
Yeah.
That last moment where Jalen dusts himself off and walks off, he completely I told him to do something else, and he completely improvised it, and I was just like, that's perfect. It was amazing, cause like that's what people do. They get up, like, and just go to work every morning. So that was nice. I was frustrated at first. I was like, that's not what I told you to do. But then I was like, makes sense. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Cause this one was just a little bit different than how it was shown on Monday?
Yeah, I edited my sound, cause it was really low.
Okay, well, to me, like I don't know, maybe I just, you watch something again, the like flashes right before it popped into the field.
I didn't touch that part.
Oh my god, well this time okay.
Maybe it's the
never mind.
sound, because I upped everything, cause it was really, really
It
low.
seemed like so much more effective this time
yeah.
when I watched.
Yeah, when I was like, dang it, cause I was like when I was editing, I was like, is it too high, is it too low? And I watched it, I was like, it's too low, I asked Molly, I was like, can I sing this song?
Yeah, it really worked this time, at least for me, I don't know.
Thank you.
I thought it was effective. My partner kind of jumped at that moment, but it was kind of like this, like you're snapping into this new space. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. All right. Well, I think that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Thank you to the filmmakers, Donna, Blake,
Thank you so much, Ashley, for facilitating this great conversation. And these folks, I'm sure, would love to talk to you more out there if you have more questions. We do need to quickly exit the theater because we have another program starting in like an hour. We really put ourselves back in. Y'all can leave the chairs just right where they are. We'll take them backstage. And I have texted both of you, so y'all go clean out in the lobby, and then I'll bring those out in just a second. Thank you all so much for joining us.